5 agonizing months, Judith was finally able to write to John that it was safe for him to return. She wrote, "I now hold the pen with very different sensations from those which have heretofore agitated my bosom. My dear, my protecting friend is returning. There is no longer a necessity for his banishment, and I shall be, in short, I shall be very happy. 1,000 times a day do I whisper the tidings to my soul. My heart, my fond heart, throbs with esteem and gratitude, hourly augmenting, and the pleasing perturbation of the little flutterer seems to render it too big for its enclosure. I cannot write. A kind of pleasing tumult takes possession of my soul, destroying that composure which is necessary for the purpose of arranging my thoughts. Yet I ought to write, and this letter is intended to meet you in Boston. Welcome, then, my dearest friend. Thou art right welcome to the soul of thy Constantia," which was her private nickname with John. Judith and John faced another obstacle when John returned to Gloucester. Judith's brother, Winthrop, did not approve of their marriage, and he had turned Judith's other siblings against them. The reasons are not entirely clear, but from Judith's letters it seems that they felt she was marrying beneath her, marrying someone who wouldn't be able to support her, and Winthrop doesn't seem to have liked him. But Judith's parents approved of John, despite Winthrop's objections, and Judith had long since known that their love was strong and enduring. Judith and John were married secretly here in Salem. Judith wrote to her parents, "The solemn transaction is at length past, and the interests, the fame, the wishes, the hopes, and the fears of Mr. Murray and your daughter are henceforward inseparably united." To her niece, Anna Plummer, she wrote, "For me, I confess that I am at present in possession of a much larger share of tranquility than I hoped would upon this globe be my portion, and I am free to own that to know myself the chosen companion of the man of my heart, of a man of sense, of a cultivated understanding, a strictly moral man, and in the most extensive sense of the word, a Christian, answers the highest idea which I have ever formed of human happiness." On their honeymoon journey south, Judith met John's friends, Vice President John Adams and Abigail Adams. About a year and a half later, on a journey to Philadelphia for the First National Universalist Convention, Judith met George and Martha Washington in New York. They moved together in high circles. They were both respected participants in national conversations. Today, we would call them a power couple. And 4 months after they were married, Judith wrote to John while he was in Boston, "Just 4 months will this day elapse since I became a happy bride. Well, but this you knew before. I must write you how I am, every change which takes place, etc., etc. Why, my dear, I am very much at your service, quite pleased with my husband, and perhaps as well, all things considered, as can be expected. I hope my letter has or will reach you in safety. It will, I am positive, make you smile, and I am almost as certain that it will produce upon your manly cheek the tear of sensibility. Your heart is highly susceptible. It is a good, a worthy heart, and it is the chief treasure of your admiring and faithfully affectionate wife." They became parents in 1791 with the successful birth of their daughter, Julia Maria. Sadly, a year and a half earlier, they had also shared the tragic loss of their stillborn son, Fitz Winthrop. John was traveling again shortly after Julia Maria's birth, and Judith wrote to him, "The last time, near 4 months since, that I penned a letter to my best friend, I was struggling for that composure, which the prospect then opening to my views was but ill calculated to bestow. Now, what a blissful reverse! I press my lovely infant to my transported bosom, and I am ready to characterize myself the happiest of women." Both of their careers flourished. It is clear to me that John's support approval, and devotion enabled Judith to walk down paths few women traveled in the late 18th century. While she had published her first essay on female abilities and self-worth in 1784, John Stevens's troubles had caused her to set aside her writing. Now she plunged in, starting in 1790 with her groundbreaking essay on the equality of the sexes, which appeared in the Massachusetts Magazine. She would spend the rest of her life writing essays, poetry, and plays, or editing works by or about John Murray. She used the pen names Constantia, the Gleaner, a male persona, the Reaper, and Honora Artesia to champion equality, female education, and economic independence, calls for a virtuous and philanthropic republic and respect for the natural world, and she promoted universalism. When she published her 1798 collection of essays and plays titled The Gleaner, she became, as far as we know, the first woman in America to self-publish a book. It was said that while John Murray was traveling at this time, he was selling salvation and subscriptions to his wife's book. And I have no doubt that he was. On more than one occasion, it was assumed that John wielded the pen behind Judith's work. Because of one particularly unpleasant such accusation about Judith's first play, John had to defend his wife as the real author. In this letter to the editor, John addresses Thomas Paine, the editor of the Federal Orrery, one of Boston's newspapers, who had advertised Judith's play as the joint production of Mr. and Mrs. Murray. In an unusual public display for this period of time, John wrote, "I declare in the most solemn manner that I never saw a single sentence, line, or even word of the comedy. Let, therefore, its merits or demerits remain with the real author. The fact is that neither the one nor the other directly or indirectly belong to John Murray." John accepted the Boston Universalists' offer to serve as their minister in 1793, and the family moved to Boston the following year, to Franklin Place. John had been offered a similar position in Philadelphia with their wealthy congregation, but he knew Judith couldn't bear to live so far away from her family. John divided his time between serving his parish in Boston and traveling to preach elsewhere and counsel fledgling Universalist congregations. During one such absence, Judith wrote to him, "I do not know, my love, in what light your absence may appear to you, but I confess that it is a very formidable foe to my peace. Upon our late tour to Philadelphia, constantly with you for 6 pleasing months, the returning evening, which had been accustomed to present you, now materially adds to the cloud which fate hath ordained a heavy and melancholy weight upon the life which for one little period enjoyed as much as mortality could give.